Welcome back, Chupacabra hunters. Now, without further delay, I give you the conclusion. It's do or die. Which one do you think it'll be? Your guess is as good as mine, so let's find out, shall we? Bloodlines. Chupacabra. Chapter 13. Part 2. Am I dead? The beast crouches as it makes a leap towards Sandra, right up onto her as she lay on the ground. She closes her eyes knowing this is it, and there, in Denton, Nevada, ends the life of Sandra McCoy. She feels as though her hands have, almost as if an unseen force has been guiding them, thrust the dagger upwards as she plunges the obsidian blade deep into what she hopes is its hide. A squelching, piercing sound is all she can remember as it howls in pain at its injury. The dagger pierces right through its heart. As the beast staggers around confused, it tumbles onto the ground, its red eyes turning from a red glow to black, with the waning strength that it has left. Gets back up on all fours, still trying to keep going, as it staggers, swaying and whining, howling in pain. As it's dying, the black blood is pouring from its mouth. The wound was staining the dirt and sand beneath it, as the ground burned where its demonic blood had fallen. Swaying back and forth, the beast finally succumbs to its fatal injury as it slumps onto the ground, moaning, still gasping, as it stretches its head out towards Larry, Cal, and the priest. With one last low howl, it lets out a low groan as it finally takes its last breath. The blood in its eyes and nose choking it as it gasps for air, it starts to hack out more of the unholy black blood from its fanged mouth. Raspy breath can be heard as its breathing becomes shallow and slows as its last gasp. A death rattle no more is the beast as it dies, closes its eyes, with its long black serpent-like tongue falling out of its mouth as blood seeps out onto the ground fouling it. Laying on the ground underneath the creature, after it had finally taken its last breath, lay poor Sandra. The three men quickly hurried to get the great dead Chupacabra off of her. She was curled up in a fetal position with the dagger still clutched tightly in her hand. She was caked in blood, as was the rest of her. Shaking, she struggled to open her eyes to a bright light coming over atop of the mountains. She thought for a moment, this is it. She was so startled she thought that she had actually died as the sun's rays bathed the four of them in the first morning light. 3 words were heard uttered from our blood-soaked, curled-up hero laying on the ground. Am I dead? I knew it. Fuck, I am dead, aren't I? Oh, okay, is this heaven, hell, or limbo? Someone please. Her eyes closed so tight that she hadn't noticed that it was sunrise greeting her. You did it, said Cal. You did it, Sandra. You're okay. You are okay. Well then, can someone get this thing off of me now, please? This thing really stinks. She truly had begun to think that she had somehow died in the action that had preceded the death of the Chupacabra as she had closed her eyes, held the dagger in both hands, then fallen over onto her back. But no, she was very much alive but crushed beneath the beast. She had been successful in killing it, but not unscathed. Her left arm was cut by the creature's claws and her ribs were causing her great pain as she had broken 2 of them when the beast fell upon her. Slowly regaining her grounding, wincing in pain, as Cal helped her up, she knew that she had broken her ribs and felt a searing pain in her right leg, noticing it felt partially numb as she finally managed to open her eyes all the way. Her vision clearing, she was greeted by her 4 companions and seeing smiles all around. Oh, I see we're all dead then, okay. She turned around, staring at the dead Chupacabra, then with her right leg, Cal still holding her up, she kicked it, then spitting on the ground she said, Thought you were going to eat me, you bastard. Not so tough and scary now, are ya? The men laughed, and she managed to crack a smile. Oh, she groaned in pain. My ribs, I think they are definitely broken, so take it easy on me, you guys. Father Santoro spoke up after the corpse of the Chupacabra lay before them in the early morning hours, as he plainly said, We will have to do something about this. Cal suggested they set it on fire, then he looked and saw Laura's remains. Yeah, what about her? Pointing to Laura's corpse. As the flies had already begun to swarm her, he walked over to swat them and covered her with Larry's tarp. Larry looked at the tarp covering Laura Gray and said, She's not the only one, we have one more. Father Santoro looked at Larry in agreement. He would help him recover Rory after they burned the Chupacabra to cleanse them all and free them once and forever from the nightmare. It was dead and they would bury its ashes within an old burial ground consecrated to keep it there, no chance of coming back. I'll notify the police immediately to retrieve Miss Gray's remains. At this point, I think cremation would be best. We have to give her sister something, said Larry. I still can't believe it, said Cal. There's one more thing before we torch this sucker, said Larry. I have a bone to pick with my old friend Father Ted. That coward ran. I know that he's my oldest friend and a priest, but I can't stand a coward. Sandra's heart was still pounding after her ordeal, her leg numb, her ribs broken, and a rather nasty gash across her left arm, still stinging as Larry cleaned and dressed her wounds. Then, giving her a few crackers in order to take some ibuprofen he kept on hand. I am sorry. I wish that I had an ice pack, but once we get back into town, I'll take you to the hospital. They can run a full scan and checkup. He smiles and pats her leg. Larry, thank you, says Sandra, half smiling back, still in pain. No worries, McCoy, and that was a hell of a thing you did. I am proud of you, something us guys will never live down. But I believe I have 4 new friends I'd like to keep in touch if that's okay, once we've all recovered. I'd like that, and I think I might just stay in touch with all of you. I never really had friends, and now I do. Hey now, Chupa buddy, says Cal, you better stay in touch. The two fist bump and hug gently so that Cal wouldn't cause her further pain. Okay, says Sandra, can we burn that thing now? I had quite enough of it. And under it, oh boy did that thing smell so bad, you guys will never know. Larry says, just 1 second first, I have to settle something up, then I'll be right back, okay? Heading down the path back to the Bronco, he sees Ted standing outside, leaning against it. As the priest sees him coming towards him, angry, he sees Larry walking faster than running to him, as the priest puts his hands up as if to try and stop him, turns to run as he feels a hard smack right in his face. Larry had punched his, knocking him onto the ground. The priest starts crying and asking for forgiveness, but none would be given. No, Ted, I am not going to hit you again. You're not worth it. And of all people, I never thought you'd be such a chicken shit. A priest. Well, some priest you are, and some friend. Please, Larry, I couldn't not after what I had done to Rory. His voice trailed off into silence as he lay bloody nose on the ground crying. Ted, he's down there. After you ran off, I found Father Santoro in the old chicken coop, bleeding. He had found another door behind the damn altar, and a tunnel led him to the coop. He, unlike you, didn't abandon us, you piece of shit. Cal and Larry each grab the Chupacabra, releasing Sandra from underneath it. She brushes herself off and thanks them both. Her eyes then dart towards the Bronco in the distance, in which Father Flanagan had been hiding in. He was slumped onto the ground. They pass him, glaring, shaking their heads. Sandra pissed that he had totally wussed out on them. Hey, you're welcome, damn coward, says Sandra. With Cal's help, they walk down to see what all of the commotion was about. Seeing that Larry had knocked him senseless and felt he deserved it for abandoning them, with the priest on hand to help, along with Larry and Cal, they dig a hole and set fire to the Chupacabra, Father Flanagan still sulking as they watch its body burn, then turn to ash. Father Santoro then takes the ashes and places them in the silk bag that the dagger had been in. Larry grabs his long-range walkie and radios into the police station so that they can recover Laura's body to take it to Lowry's funeral home for immediate cremation, in order to return her to the only family that she had left. No idea how I'll explain this, but I suppose condition given we can camper lost and delirious. It happens, though I hate lying about it, but it's the only way we can explain this at all without being questioned about it. The group all then thank Father Santoro for his help when Ted ran off. Larry would never forgive him. Father Santoro smiling as he gathers the last of the ashes. I think that we'll all sleep a lot easier now. Larry says, I'll be back. I have a little more work to do here at the old farm. I think raising it and filling that cellar in after we recover Rory might help, and so that no one ever goes down in those tunnels again. I'll dynamite it, collapse it in like no one of this was ever here. I think that's best. Cal and Larry head down into the tunnels, down back to the altar, opening the door that Father Santoro had told him about. After turning the torch on the wall, it opened, and there, just behind it, down the left tunnel, were the skeletal remains of Rory Crenshaw, gathered into a small box, taken back up and out into the sunlight for the first time in over 55 years. The police finally arrived, with the medical examiner right on their tail, placing Laura Gray's remains onto a stretcher in a body bag. The medical examiner determined chewed on by coyotes after having gotten lost out in the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains, citing death by misadventure on her own accord, and quickly cremated the remains that were then delivered to an estranged sister who cried when they arrived, hand-delivered by Larry himself. As for Rory Crenshaw, his remains in the box carried by Larry, replaced afterwards, would be placed into a small casket meant for a child, and held a small gathering, with the 5 who stayed alive, and the one old lady, beaten down by the loss of her only grandson, now given a proper burial, and hopefully would give the crank old bat, in Larry's mind, some much-needed closure. Larry would deliver this to the old woman himself, much as he did with Laura Gray. As the 5 depart with the disgraced Father Flanagan in tow, they depart the farm when Larry stops the car in front of old lady Crenshaw's place. Larry looks down at the dash, then over to his companions. One more thing before I tell her, but not yet. This is just something that I need to do. Old lady Crenshaw, sitting in a rocking chair on her front porch, looks up to see Larry getting out of the vehicle, walking up the path to her porch. Oh, so you're still alive, huh? She says. Well, I must say you're not your father. You didn't turn and abandoned your friends like that one over there, pointing to Father Flanagan. Always was a little shit, that one. Mouthing off and picking on Rory and the Riley girl. Always looking up her dress on the jungle gym, she spits. Little pervert. You know, a thank you would suffice. We killed it, or I wouldn't be standing here talking to your cranky old ass now, would I? He then tosses a bloody claw towards the old lady that falls at her feet. Well, no, I suppose not, Lawrence Whitfield. Now what do you want? Leave a lonely old lady be. You've got no more business here. Old lady Crenshaw scoffs, and then slightly bending over, picks up the claw. Old lady Crenshaw, cold staring at him, says, You may have saved your hide, boy, but that doesn't bring mine back. No, I suppose not, but you know, Rory deserved a better mother than you. I always remember that. As much as you loved, you also failed to protect, and I heard on so many occasions, Mercer chasing after him with a belt, swatting him, hearing him cry for being different. So I suppose letting Mercer in his constant drunken state beat him, and you did nothing but stand by and watch him beat that poor kid. Old lady Crenshaw seethed with anger. What? No, it was your fault. Your friend tricked him, leading him to believe that you were his friends. Yeah, we were just stupid kids, but if you think we don't regret how we teased him, you're wrong. We were stupid, but we grew up. We learned our lessons. But you, how could you have just let Mercer hurt him? Worse than anything we ever did as kids is beyond me. So you have taken your part of that responsibility now. But I couldn't. Mercer would get blind rage drunk and hit on me. Rory tried to protect me, and he would beat that poor boy so bad, I was helpless. But I know it, I should have left him. I just don't know why I didn't. No excuses. As ragged and decrepit as she was, that old woman had a good heart. She had tears streaming down her face. She had been in denial of the abuse for so long, she had just accepted it, keeping her mouth shut. I did all I could, she said. I had no money and no means to leave, so I stayed. Then Rory disappeared, so yes, I took my anger out on you, reprobates, for teasing him while hiding a broken arm. Womenfolk in my days had no learnin'. I was too ignorant, and too afraid. Had I sent him to live with your family, that would have exposed the shame on my daughter, and your father couldn't live with that. I never knew, said Larry. Not one person did, but poor Rory, and he took the beatings for me, one too many times, and then old Merc done drank himself to death. After Rory disappeared, I felt relief for a moment, then loneliness, just an empty house, the old lady said, as tears welled up in her eyes. There is one thing, you old bat, that I learned and discovered over in that old burnt-out husk of farm. My friend the priest, there, pointing to Father Santoro, well, he found his way through a few tunnels underground beneath the place, and well, he found Rory. As Larry sighed, he continued, That's what I had actually stopped by here and had come to tell you about. If you let me finish, there was a note with him. I am giving this to you, and his remains, if you would like. I would like to have him placed and buried proper for you, and if it's okay, I would like to. Her eyes swelled up with tears as Larry handed her the note that had been found on the skeletal remains of Rory Crenshaw. The note simply said, I love you, from Mama to Rory. An apology was written on the back of it, though Larry just handed it to her, some small comfort given for a life cut short. She croaked out, I'd like that very much. She looked down at her feet, feeling her anger retreat as she lifted her head. She rose out of her rocking chair, walking over to Larry and her arms stretched out. If it's okay, this old bat would like to give you a hug. As the two made their amends and in an embrace, a new feeling came over the old woman. Happiness replaced her sorrow. though she'd never forget her lost grandson. She knew it was the nest that could be done for poor old Rory, just grateful that she knew now what had actually occurred that fateful day when he never came home. Larry said his goodbyes to the old woman and rejoined his companions, saying to them, "I hope now she can see it was not my family's fault, and maybe she can find some sort of peace in knowing." Sandra wasn't crying, but she did have a new respect for the old woman. "We all have to move on now, and you have to realize there was nothing that you could have done otherwise, and you gave her Rory back." The note that Rory Crenshaw had written his mother went as such, revealing that he was the one who had broken the vase, and telling her that he was sorry that he had felt that Mercer Crenshaw had never loved him for being a bastard, and hadn't died at birth like he had overheard him say to his grandmother. Rory had intended to give her that apology the day he went missing, and found himself trapped and alone. Lone could only imagine the emotions and terror of a scared boy whose only fault was trusting and loving too much. On the day of the anniversary, when Mercer had died after drinking himself to death, an unexpected emotion warmed over old Lady Crenshaw. She shed a single tear. It was only a year later she would be dead, never having been able to reconcile with her mistakes or her lost daughter, and having been reunited with the grandson she had seen as not just a burden. She passed away in her sleep, dreaming of she and Rory together again. There were many emotions involved as the five dispersed after defeating the beast. What happened after one could only imagine, going back to their lives and staying in touch as they had been bonded over a trauma that led them to become unsung heroes. People in the world would never hear, know, or read about them killing the Chupacabra in any newspapers. There would be no interviews, and as far as anyone is concerned, it never happened. End Bloodlines Chupacabra Chapter 13, Part 2, Am I Dead?